welcome to Wednesday. Happy belated International Women's Day. I'm late, sorry, but I was working yesterday. Baby is good, I'm good. We get the results of the 20-week anatomy scan on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that, although it is a little anxiety-provoking. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, please consider engaging with it by either leaving a comment or liking it. So, as we enter spring, or should I say as I pretend we're entering spring, it was really cold here the past couple days, I wanted to talk about two things in Sussex history that both happened on March 9th of different years. The first is the 2020 Commonwealth Day service, which happened March 9th, 2020, and the second is Piers Morgan storming off the set of Good Morning Britain, also March 9th of 2021. So, back in March of 2020, Harry and Meghan were back in the UK for a final round of engagements after announcing they were leaving their roles as senior working members of the firm. Now, this culminated in the Commonwealth Day service. I think it's important to note that the Commonwealth Day thing was traditionally Empire Day, but the name was changed in the 70s because Star Wars had come out and they didn't like the association. No, it was changed for obvious reasons. Anyway, this day has been celebrated since the early 20th century and is usually marked by a church service or Thanksgiving service held at Westminster Abbey, which is usually attended by members of the royal family. We know how the story goes. Harry and Meghan had come back to the UK and knocked it out of the park, receiving an extended ovation from fellow service members at the Festival of Music, getting the photo. Basically, the tabloids, and I would argue the palace, had prayed they would come back tail tucked, and instead they got a couple who looked resilient and happy with their choices. You have to wonder how their behavior and their very warm reception from regular Brits affected what was about to happen at the Commonwealth Day service. So, first there were tabloid rumors that Harry and Meghan weren't happy in their place in the procession into the Abbey. I have to interject here and say from the second Meghan Markle married into the royal family, there have been tabloid rumors that she wasn't happy with her supposed place. There is literally zero evidence of this, like there is zero evidence that Harry and Meghan weren't happy with their processional place. Harry does have Meghan walk in front of him sometimes because a lot of men believe it is polite to allow women to walk through doorways first. But if that's your evidence that Meghan didn't respect the so-called hierarchy of the royal family, I think you need to get a grip. Okay, moving on. Then, on the actual day of the event, William, Kate, and Sophie Wessex pointedly ignored Harry and Meghan, obviously trying to get it across that they were not speaking with them. Edward, Sophie's husband, obviously did not get the memo and chit-chatted with the Sussexes, which I'm sure he got an earful about later. Of course, the day of, royalists are thrilled. Finally, someone has stood up to pushy Meghan Markle. That lasted all of about a few hours until reality knocked and people outside the tabloid bubble started weighing in. First, the whole event happened in a church. I'm not a religious person myself, but people tend to think that other people should behave while inside a religious building. Second, to all but the most seasoned deranged, their behavior was unprovoked. Meghan greeted them with a warm smile and was obviously willing to engage. Kate and Sophie's behavior comes off as them being rude and snobbish, not strong. Third, and maybe most importantly, at least in my opinion, is that this public display of rudeness really blows up all the palace/tabloid narratives about Meghan Markle. They want you to believe that Meghan was pushy and domineering, that she made Kate Middleton cry at one point, and right here in front of all of our eyes, we have two of the most senior women in the family acting like high school bullies, all while Meghan smiles graciously. It's hard, again, for all but the most virulent of royalists to rectify the narrative the palace had been spinning for years with what we witnessed firsthand at the Commonwealth Day service. As more of maybe a meta point, I think we need to look at what the service represents, a celebration of the Commonwealth of countries, a celebration of their diverse nature. And here you have the first mixed-race woman to marry into the senior rankings of the royal family, who has just faced an onslaught of years' worth of racist tabloid stories, who is here putting her best foot forward as she has chosen a different path. And then you have two middle-aged white princesses who are acting like total brats. Commonwealth Day that year, at least for the royal family, had gone right back to Empire Day. I'm not here to say that this event was not painful for Harry and Meghan. I think you can tell by Harry's face how upsetting this all was, but this service was important. First, it gives all of us an insight to the royal family strategy in early 2020. You cannot convince me that William, Kate, and Sophie's behavior was not pre-planned. Sophie especially would never be so bold unless she was given a go-ahead. I also believe, as I mentioned previously, that this plan was hatched as the royal family and their PR watched how well received Harry and Meghan had been in the week preceding the service. They thought this behavior would make the royals look strong, that it would send a certain message. It really once again points to the insular nature of the royal family and their inability to read a room, and their apparent lack of either good advice or willingness to listen to good advice. Having William, Kate, and Sophie behave this way publicly towards Harry and Meghan was pretty astonishingly stupid, and most royalists have gone from beating their chests proclaiming victory over Harry and Meghan to pretending like the Commonwealth Day service never happened. This, of course, would not be the only time the royal family has been convinced they were in the right, only to reinforce Harry and Meghan's claims that they were not supported. Jason Knauf thought he really did something when he released Meghan's texts and emails to the court, hoping to get A&L back into the game. Instead of proving that Meghan was a bully, the tone of the messages clearly shows she was not in control of anything while confined in the palace and, in fact, was deferring to staff. The palace is so blinded by their hatred of Meghan that they cannot see what's right in front of their faces, and every time they pull the curtain back, Harry and Meghan seem to be vindicated. Speaking of virulent royalists, a year later, Piers Morgan would storm off set and rage quit on March 9th of 2021. Now, I don't really feel the need to get super into Piers Morgan. If you watch my videos, I think you already know who he is. But basically, the TLDR is that Morgan is shitty. Even when you discount all the Meghan stuff, he has been accused of toxic behavior pretty much from the moment he became a public figure in the early 90s. From phone hacking allegations as the editor of the Daily Mirror to more feuds with public figures than you can count, many of them being with women. Morgan seems to pride himself on using toxic, racist, and misogynistic language, and his willingness to be publicly belligerent has attracted a core base of fans. What that says about them, I will leave up to you to deduce. And, of course, as a strong mixed-race woman who wasn't willing to bend over backwards for the royal family or pretend like racist tabloid stories weren't racist, Meghan Markle was a prime target for Morgan. He continues to insist that he was, quote, friends with Meghan, meeting her for drinks, although I think it is worth noting that there's no evidence other than a few DMs from the especially camera-happy Morgan that these drinks occurred. He now insists he was dropped by Meghan when she met Harry. Again, there's no evidence of this, but here we are. After Harry and Meghan became a public couple, Morgan just has not stopped. Often daily critiques or comments, Meghan has really become an obsession. Morgan has continued his one-sided battle with her for years, and despite multiple admissions of maybe I've gone too far or I'm no longer going to speak about Meghan, he always comes back. Honestly, if my husband was this obsessed with another woman, I would be embarrassed, but Morgan's wife seems happy to play along. Now, of course, Piers has been accused of harassment and bullying across social media, and he has received a little pushback while hosting his TV shows, but nothing compared to when co-host Alex Beresford criticized his endless tirades against Meghan, pointing out that this had become an obsession, then didn't back down when Morgan did what middle-aged white men in power do when called out, started yelling. Beresford, a man of color himself, pointed out that he had experienced similar racism to what Meghan had described in the Oprah interview. So, when Morgan's yelling and posturing didn't work, he stormed off set. ITV had received thousands of complaints about Morgan's so-called coverage of the Oprah interview, especially when he pointedly exclaimed he did not believe Meghan's claim that she had considered self-harm. I find it hilarious personally that a man who had been bullying people since the 90s literally could not take it when he was calmly called out in person and stormed away when he could not defend his own behavior. March 9th has proven to be a very interesting day in Sussex history. Thank you for watching. I'm hoping to record a tea time with Mom tomorrow, but we will always see what the day brings. Hope to see you soon. Bye.